Well, welcome everyone on Thanksgiving Day. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah, if you've interrupted cooking, thank you. I've spoken a lot about, or I've written quite a bit on Facebook and elsewhere about love this week. So I might speak about that later. But the thing about the love that I attempt to speak about is that it's not. And yet it is. So love always seemed like something that I could get, that I could have. But that's not the love that I speak about or I attempt to speak about. And speaking about it sounds like it's something. It's the same dilemma with using any words. Sounds like I know what I'm talking about. I fucking don't. And yet, I don't doubt it. And that's very hard to convey. But this isn't a love for you or me. This isn't a love that can be had. It's not found. It just is. Just is it's undeniable. In a way, if I think of what I've always conceptualized as love, this is not it. Because this is all love, regardless. It's not a love that I would have ever said I wanted. It's not what I was looking for. The looking for is always somewhere else, always something else. And it's ruthless. I used to like things that said don't surrender to love. They always seemed very attractive. I read quite a bit of that kind of spiritual stuff. But I can't surrender to love, because if I tried to surrender to love, there's far too much effort in that, in the trying. I mean, the trying is love too. Of course it is. In fact, it's tremendously, obviously love. But I'm always making it elsewhere in the trying. So this is a love of total resignation. A love without requirement. Just simply as things are, as things seem to be. not knowing how things are, just things being how they are, how everything seems to be. And it's not acceptance or surrender. Resistance is just as much love. Trying to not try is just as much love as trying. There's just nothing, there's no escape. There's no exclusion. And it's the no exclusion that seems to allow the word love to be used. Again, love sounds loving. This is utterly ruthless in a dreadful, fucking dreadful way. So it's love whether I get my own way or not, whether I get what I want or not, if life appears how I like it or I really hate it, whether I'm joyful or sobbing and I don't even know what the tears are about. It is undeniable that the tears are love. I think I tried to deny that for a long time. But it's no good pretending that you want this love. That's not going to work. No. This is a love whether you want it or not. And you can deny it as much as you want. Because there isn't love, there's only love. Love couldn't give a shit. Couldn't give a shit about your acceptance or resistance. The reason I might say is most devastating is it's a love that doesn't recognize you at all. I mean, now that's unconditional. If love recognizes you, it would either be ignoring you or listening to you and helping you out, you know, like that benevolent God that you once prayed to. So this love isn't all loving. It's all everything and nothing. Well, if you've got any burning questions or you've got an urge to share, feel free, because we're quite a small group today. And if you want me to talk about something other than love, then just, I could try and do that. Yeah, go ahead, Michael.
For a long time, when you talked about love, I didn't relate or couldn't relate to what you were saying. And somehow what you were saying converged with the experience here. And here love is felt like the adhesive that binds us, an impersonal adhesive that binds objectifying sentient beings together. I suppose dogs feel it too when they play with each other, and that love of simply being, that, as you eloquently say, is impersonal. It's here it's experienced as a profound what? Um, Life beats everyone up. It takes no prisoners. It's hard. It's hard to be humans. It's hard to be life. And I see humans as survivors, as warriors, wounded warriors who enter the battle, get up and with tear-stained, blood-stained garments and enter again. People after a terrible divorce or a terrible relationship will find another. They don't normally give up on relationship. Uh, I love humans. I love the courageousness of people, that here that it experiences this great compassion for others, and then that somehow that flows back into one's personal world, which is all there is really for us. And we become compassionate with ourselves and forgiving and gentle.
Yeah.
Mm. And I just ran out of words.
Beautiful, Michael.
Thanks, Dan. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, you too. It doesn't exist in England. No, nobody. I mean, I never until I met Kelly, and she's American. I never knew, and I would never have known the date of Thanksgiving. It's a nice idea, though. Eliana.
I just wanted to counter Michael's or add to that love is also resentment and judgment and killing and everything else, whatever's appearing. Yeah, that's all.
Yeah.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanks.
So, someone once said it was red and raw, and I can't remember the other thing. Oh, anarchic and
Yeah.
several other things.
Yeah, all of that. I could read the poem because I sort of said the poem, but then I in the introduction, but I didn't. So I wrote this yesterday. No, I wrote it in the middle of the night, actually, if I remember rightly. I think I wrote it at 2 a.m. I doesn't want this. I doesn't want this love. I want security, promises, guarantees. I want a love that's safe, a love where I know where I stand. This love isn't interested in what I want. This love doesn't recognize me at all. This love is totally free, utterly wild, without inhibition, without care, completely vulnerable, naked, raw. No, this is not the love I ever wanted. How could it be? This love is regardless of how I want it to be. This is the love that is without conditions. That's all conditions. This is not what I meant by love. This savagely incomprehensible, unconditional love. That's what I was trying to say at the beginning.
Beautiful film.
Thanks. And it's strange, but I've been doing these meetings for a few years now. It seems I've done maybe a couple of hundred, and there has always been a resistance to talking about love. Always. Now, for whatever reason, I've no reason. It seemed like it would be too risky, too dangerous, because love is, oh my God, if there's a dangerous word, I mean, there are only words, but love is the most dangerous word after God, maybe, or even more than God. But love is so loaded, and there isn't anyone who doesn't have an opinion about love. And people have very strong opinions about love. And yet it's always been there. I remember when I started speaking, I thought I could speak about love. And I went, no, best not. Best not. Best leave that. Best leave that. Leave that. Leave that for someone else, because you're going to get shot down. You're going to get shit for talking about that. Especially a love, as Ileana suggested, which is perfectly true. It's everything. So if you talk about hate as love, most people are not going to like it. I have spoken a lot about sorrow as love. That I felt that came very strongly, that it seemed very obvious that what I did was suppress sorrow. And in that, I was hiding from love. But actually, hiding from anything is always turning your back, is always attempting to look away. I don't like it. Turn away. I don't like it. Just put it in a box, wrap it up, send it somewhere else.
Gracia, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Raja. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi, Tim.
Hi, Raja.
I think love is like a waterfall in the mouth. When someone talks about it, you feel, when you were reading your poem, I could.
What, running with blood?
Yeah, it's amazing. You feel like this liquid going down your throat, you know? It makes you feel that. That's love, I suppose. We can't deny that love is the most powerful force.
Wow.
On earth.
But
then I wanted to share. Yeah. Sorry.
That's not really what I mean. I don't see that love has any power.
Well, to me it is.
Yeah.
Maybe that's an opinion. Like Michael say, we have opinions about everything.
No.
To me, I've always thought that love could change. If it could change me, it could change anyone.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I just wanted to share something, because I don't know. To me, love is just a feeling. So and this has always been about feeling for me. It's never been about reason or things like that. And I just wanted to share something with you. Like Thursdays have been like kind of like a special day for me. I don't know. Sometimes it's like things happen on a Thursday. And yeah, I know we have these beliefs. And one of the things was like this one Thursday, I went down to see my son. I normally don't like, when I have like a Zoom meeting or any other kind of interaction on Facebook, then I don't like to go out for the day. You know, I like to stay in and contemplate a bit. just one of those things. But this one day I went down to see my son. And he has like a workshop. So I went there, and then he said that he'll meet me there. So I had to wait a while. And I was listening to the song, and it's called You Are the Reason. I kind of like that song. You Are the Reason. And then I was listening to the song, and then suddenly I looked up. And when I looked around, it was like the whole world had changed somehow. It was like the trees looked so beautiful. You know, it had like a sheen on it. And yeah, I mean, when you look at things and it comes into focus, it's beautiful, right? But this day it was totally different. It was like they had this it was almost like jewel-like. I came home and then, yeah, so anyway, yesterday I was talking to Bill Gibson, and then we were talking about your poem, you know? It was about being special. And I read your poem, and I like your poems because there's no handles, really. You leave there's nowhere to land. I think that's the beauty of what you write. There's no answer to anything. And then Gibson was telling me that, like, we'll never know, you know. There's certain things you never know. Like, it's unfathomable, unknowable. So I had this, I'm going to try and cut this short. So anyway, when this first happened to me, I was in my 30s, right? And this lady told me that the best thing to do was to meditate. So I started
To meditate.
Yeah, she said, you must meditate, when I had this experience now. So I started to meditate. And then she told me, you could ask anything when you go into meditation and you'll get an answer. So that was I started meditating. And then one day I was looking, my husband was Hindu. And he had all these goddesses and gods he used to pray to, you know. And I was looking at all of them and I said, hey, how beautiful they look. You know, these women especially, all dressed up and amazing. And I'm thinking in my mind, now these are gods and goddesses, right? So how would anyone know what they look like? Right, so I said, okay, and then I started meditating. And when I finished meditating, the answer was that these sages used to meditate, and when they went into deep meditation, they used to see these visions, you know? And that's how they...
Sorry, say that again. What was
So
that?
anyway, that when they went into deep meditation, they used to see visions of gods and goddesses.
Oh, of course.
You know?
Oh, yeah. Well, if that's what you fancy.
Yeah, that is the answer I got. Yeah. So anyway,
do you know, if I go into deep meditation, I see goddesses, but maybe of a slightly different nature.
yeah. 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 So anyway, so Bill Gibson couldn't give me an answer about specialness and stuff, right? And obviously I needed an answer. So I did what I do normally. I said, okay, I'm going to ask this question and then I'm going to sleep. And I'll wake up in the morning and I will have an answer. Right? Because I wanted to know, who am I? And when I got up in the morning, I walked to my kitchen door and I looked out, and there I saw the sunflower. And yet, the sunflowers are half open, you know. And I said, okay, let me take a picture. I can share it on Facebook and write something about it. I mean, that's not the thing now, right? I went and took the picture. I came back inside and then I wrote something and I put the picture. And then I looked at the picture. And then I mean, what I was amazed because wherever there was a leaf, there was a sunflower coming out of it. There was a bud on every leaf on that tree. Okay, I came back in, I went back again to look at it properly now, you know, and I counted, I said, oh God, this is unreal. And I mean, I can still go and take it, you can see it on Facebook, right? It is unusual. And then I came back in, I was sitting and thinking about that. Then I went back again and I counted it now. Can a sunflower have 16 flowers? You know, that was amazing to me because I normally see a sunflower with 1 flower or 2 flowers, 3 maybe. But this was truly amazing. And the flowers were right at the bottom. So I came back now and now I'm thinking about, hey, how would it balance? Because the stem was like kind of weak, you know. And then I looked again, the flowers were right around. So kind of like there would be some balance, you know, as the flowers grow on the side. So the tree is not going to collapse. But I think that somehow life gives us answers.
What was
And
the
maybe that
what was the answer, Razzie?
that some things in life are not, can't be explained. And that although we will have our normal sunflowers that give us a single flower or 3 flowers, sometimes you would have a sunflower like this that has 16 flowers on its stalk, you know.
Right.
And I would take pictures of them and post it because I think this is kind of so unusual. But that's it. It's like somehow like I'm happy now. If I can have a sunflower with 16 flowers on it, that makes me happy. I don't need any answers. I don't need to know, you know.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Razzie.
I love you. I love you lots.
Thanks, Razzie.
Right.
The answer is sunflower. Of course it is. All the answers are the answer. And none of the answers. I asked that question. I asked, who am I? I didn't even get a sunflower answer. I didn't get anything. It was like no reply. It's not that silence is the answer, though. I think maybe some human beings ask the big question, like you and I, or any of the other great existential questions, and they don't get an answer, or there's silence, and then they make silence into the answer. But of course, silence is no different from noise. Noise is just noisier. Stefan.
Hello, Tim. Yeah, I just had a quite a general question on just seeking dropping. So, you know, I'm doing the trying, I'm doing the trying not to try.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah, I'm just wondering how that, sometimes there are glimpses of, it doesn't, I won't talk about that, but I'm just wondering, yeah, if that was an experience for you, just seeking dropping, or rather kind of what kind of appeared during that process, what kind of happened.
It's of no relevance at all, stuff. And you know, I hate talking about my shit. Here we go. Here we go. What it seemed to do was just escalate, become, so there was no, the trying not to seek just seemed to intensify the seeking. The futility of the seeking was seen, I would say, years before the seeking ended. And what it seemed to do was just, because it's desperation, that my recollection of it was more and more desperate. So, I mean, there's nothing more desperate than trying not to try, to be honest. I mean, there's desperation in a nutshell, isn't it? You might as well wipe your ass with sandpaper. It's desperate, isn't it? It's not going to work. And you know it's not going to work as well. But does it matter? No, you still, it's it was so very clear that I had no say in any of it. And it's just running its course. But in the running of its course, it looked like it was getting faster and faster, and it was getting more and more, even with the trying not to, the trying not to try, that just seemed to exacerbate the seeking. Just need to, it's like pouring fuel on the fire, the trying not to try. That's as I remember it. And I mean, really, truly, I didn't stop trying. I did try to stop trying. I didn't stop trying. The trying did seem to stop, but there was absolutely no doubt that there was nothing to do with me. I was still trying to not try. So that's useless to you, Stefan, I know. But, you know, there isn't, I've said this plenty of times before. If I had a method, if I thought there was something I could help you with, I would help you. Genuinely. I'm brimming over with compassion for the seeker's plight. I am. And yet the only compassion seems to be, yeah, it's all for nothing.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's helpful.
That's funny, isn't it? I say all that and then you go, oh yeah, that's really helpful. This is such a funny old game. It really is. But yeah, it just, I mean, literally there was just no more trying, but it was nothing to do with me, that was for sure. Yeah. It was despite all my efforts. This is despite all your efforts for it to be otherwise, isn't it? I mean, and of course that isn't something new. This is, I can't emphasize this enough. You're waiting for whatever you've imagined, an awakening, a liberation, maybe even enlightenment if you've got lofty ambition. But of course, this is fully enlightened. Where else would the light be? How could there be more? How could there? There just simply couldn't. There's never any more or less.
Wonderful spoken, Tim. Sophie, you can
Oh,
share.
Sophie. Oh, do you know, I'm quite enjoying this. It's such a novelty to have Anita's voice just suddenly come in. It's like, no, I've gone into a parallel universe where I'm with my new co-host. Sophie, thanks.
Hi,
Anita.
Tim. Yeah. Can you say something about effort? Not effortless, but effort. It seems like I'm not really doing it myself, but there's like less and less effort, like in trying to make it happen or like trying to fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's a lot of sadness to it. I think
Yeah.
I'm not really sure. Yeah. So yeah.
Oh, that doesn't. Yeah, I'd be. If anyone ever talks about this, and there isn't sadness, I'll always be amazed. And there are plenty of people who don't talk about the sadness. But look how hard you tried, Sophie.
Yeah, exactly. But then the amount of sadness is it just doesn't end. Just
No.
doesn't end.
And I'd like to tell you that it does end, but I couldn't say that.
No.
No. No. I mean, I think it's one of the main reasons this message will never be popular is because what it stares in the face is that life is always lost. Whatever you called life, all things, everything is born and dies. And it's undeniable. You know how much human beings, human selves, the sense of self, just insist that there must be something that doesn't die. It's like an obsession. It's an obsession with self. There has to be something that doesn't die, that is eternal, that is, you know, seems like God's always been popular. I mean, a lot of people like more than one, but this sense of, you know, maybe selfers can't get enough of things that will live forever. Hence, this notion of the soul is so popular. I mean, it's almost universal. This idea that there is an essence to a human being that doesn't die, can't die, that will cheat death, will beat death. If you think about self's always trying to beat life and then beat death. Like it's in, and I don't see a way around it. While there's a sense of separation, then the death isn't the, it's as though self can't look death in the face. You know, always feels I have to turn away. Well, if that ability to turn away from the obviousness that this is always being lost as it's found, so this is always absolutely fresh and new, like a newborn child, and it's lived 1,000 years and is dying, and they're not two. So the newborn and the dying old person, they're not two. And of course, there's huge sad. That's immensely sad.
It's funny that you say it that way, but it's exactly that. And it's very strange because on one hand, it's like, I mean, the emptiness of things, it's beautiful, but it's also devastating at the same time because there's nothing,
Well,
there's nothing for me to do. So it's, yeah.
No, that's the other. I mean, I should write a whole book on sadness, really. I mean, that if non-duality becomes undeniable, then there's sadness is the overwhelming sense, because in a very real sense everything is lost because everything is empty. So everything you said you had is lost because it's all, I mean, it's still there, but it's lost in the way that you've believed it to be. All beliefs are lost. There can still be beliefs, but they're empty. So all knowledge is empty, all understanding, all belief. Faith is destroyed. In fact, it all goes up in flames, all of it. Everything that you've relied upon to say you know how life is, it's all incinerated.
It's really going from sadness to no to just like what it is. So it's like two things at the same time. It's very
Yeah. And of course, it's I don't know how it is for you, but they're I don't know, is it obvious to you that the sadness is love? I don't know if it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's really hard. I want to probably convey that more than anything.
No, I get it.
That's very hard to convey. That
Yeah.
So interestingly, I mean, those who know me say with non-duality, I mean, well, what's good it's done for you? You're sad all the time. And I used to be happy-go-lucky party animal, you know, just with a false smile on my face. I didn't even know it was false, but you know what I mean. With a facade of I'm doing really well and I'm always jolly and always happy. And now I'm mostly miserable as sin. And there's so much love in it. This myth, I mean, I can't emphasize enough, this isn't about happiness at all. And it's not that happiness can't appear, but it's what most people call happiness is a cover for the sorrow, the natural, obvious sorrow of being human. What Michael talked about at the beginning when he said, you know, how tough it is to be human. And of course, what most human beings are trying to make light of that, as though it's not. To hide from sorrow and hide from loss and hide from grief.
In a way, it's like free to be sad and free to be melancholic without excuse. I mean, you don't have to excuse it.
Yeah. Yeah, because this isn't liberation, you know. When you said free, it's not like I am free to be. It's like the emotion, the feelings are free. It's like they're liberated.
Yeah.
This is liberation for feeling. All the feelings you've hidden from and you've hidden away. You know how you push them to the back. I don't want to look at you. We're very taught. I mean, I don't know how it was for you, but I was taught as a child that sadness was just a sign that something's wrong. And so I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to feel wrong. So I made sadness wrong and hid it away, hid it from myself and from everyone else. And now that's not possible. It's like the game's played, but you stop being able to play. You know, you can't play the game your own way. This is everything that self doesn't want. You know, we're taught that you can be self-empowered to play the game how you want to play it.
Right.
And this is just the opposite.
Yeah.
It's like life just appears just as it appears. And there doesn't seem to be any ability to manage it.
Yeah. Thank you, Tim.
Thanks, Sophie. I thought the other day, if before Years ago, if I felt like I've felt lately, I would have gone to the doctor. For sure. I know the symptoms of depression.
It's funny you said,
You know, crying a lot being number one.
no, it's funny you said it, because in the past time, every time I would feel like down or sad or whatever, I would think like I have to talk to somebody. I mean, somebody have to tell me what is going on.
Yeah.
And it's such a relief from that, because it's just not needed. I mean, like,
isn't that hilarious though, Sophie? As though somebody else would have a better idea of
exactly,
what's going on.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah,
I mean, have you ever heard anything so ridiculous?
I know.
I'm talking as an ex-therapist. How ridiculous that you go to somebody else for them to tell you how you're feeling and what it means. What the fuck?
Yeah,
seriously? And we all do that and think it's a great. No, I don't. I don't mean talk to a friend and tell them how you're feeling. I mean go to someone else who's an expert and tells you how to sort your shit out.
Yeah, that is going to tell you like what you feel is going to confirm that, or give you like, sort of permission to feel that, or to explain. Yeah.
No, I think expressing feelings, I'm very in favor of that.
Yeah. And usually like 2 days later, I would feel okay. So it was just, I mean, it's changing anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks.
But I do really want to burst the bubble that you think awakening will be the end of any problems. You know, I mean, what I don't know how anyone dare suggest such a thing, but there we are. It's rife. There are thousands and thousands of human beings saying that, okay, listen to me and you won't have any problems anymore. Or there won't be any problems. Yeah, because I mean, quite a lot of speakers talk about not only solving your problems, but the Earth's problems. Can sort the world out. Bloody hell. No, so that, I mean, this isn't a solution to anything. This doesn't answer any questions. It's not an answer. It's the suggestion that there aren't any answers.
Hi, Tim. I was just thinking, like, it's so nice though when you have people like yourself and others. Kate's so lovely. When I get in this crying and just tears, we can reach out to each other, and it's someone that kind of understands without really understanding,
Yeah.
And it just feels really good not to, even though there are no others, that connection of just like sharing that, like raw, like, I don't care what you think of me,
No.
I'm bawling my eyes out again, that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, isn't that, I've asked myself lots of times why I carry on doing this, It's not bringing me fame or fortune. It's because it's just lovely to share this. And yeah, and through this you meet amazing friends.
Exactly. Yes.
All of I'm so grateful for all the beautiful friends that I've met.
Yeah. Same. same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, that makes it worthwhile in itself, doesn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. Yeah. Mm.
No, when I was talking about going to a therapist, I think, yeah, I'm not against that at all. It's just, I'm just suggesting don't expect somebody who's got the answers to your problems as though they would know more than you do. The whole notion that people know more than you do about yourself or about how it is, by self, I mean how it is to be you. Now they can have methods and they can be useful, but it isn't, you know, learning about yourself, which the only reason I say that as well is because I spent a lot of years doing that. A lot. There's no end to that, is there?
That's the funny thing. You can learn and learn and learn, but it's not like it's going to be maintained and you're going to be like, I know exactly how I'm going to react. And, you know, it's just,
oh, because it's like,
it's fine.
Because it's mostly behavioral, as though you can manage your behavior. So in this situation, I feel like this. I don't like feeling like that. So I want to feel like that. Can you help me to feel in a different way? As though you know how anything's going to turn up or how any feeling will appear. You've got no idea. None.
None.
None at all. And for most selves, that feels terribly threatening because I need to know in this situation, I'll feel okay. Well, you probably fucking won't.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks, Natalie.
Yes. Thanks.
Get the turkey in the oven. Michael, did you want to say something? Unmute yourself, Michael.
For me, therapy was incredibly beneficial. I grew up in a terribly dysfunctional home when my family thought there was blood, and it was violent. I grew up with that later manifested into panic attacks and severe depression, suicidal depression. And I went to a therapist who was a little lady in a wheelchair, and she had grown up in a terribly dysfunctional with a terribly dysfunctional mother who was alcoholic. And when the mother got drunk, she would grab this little girl from her chair and throw her around the room, grab her by her hair, and take her existential angst out on this little girl, this little crippled girl, who was hampering her ability to find a man. So I sat with her for 2 years, and we cried and laughed together and healed. I spent many years in 12-step groups, almost every 12-step group I could find. And there's many addictions, sharing and laughing and crying. That seems to clean, for me, it cleaned a path out of the shadowland. I don't think that therapy is beneficial when it comes to things non-duality. They don't know.
That's kind of what I meant.
I know.
Oh no, no, because I had a lot of therapy and it was hugely beneficial. But what it did was just seem to put me back together again, so I was functional.
Yeah,
that's what it was good for.
I think we have to have a stable self before we can realize it doesn't exist.
Well, yeah, well, you could say that, but then equally you might say that it has to be really unstable in order for it to I mean either stories will do.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, because I don't know. Yeah, maybe most people, it seems, have had a lot of therapy before they come to non-duality. Yeah, it does seem that it's very common anyway, isn't it?
Yeah.
But just because it's common, because that's the problem. This isn't science.
Yeah.
Just because, you know, because science says, well, that's how it appears. You know, we've got all this data, and the data's saying, and the data is probably saying there's something in it.
Yeah.
But you know full well, this isn't interested in the data. This isn't reading the data.
Oh, thanks, Tim.
This flies in the face of all evidence. That's how it. That's really the most obvious thing. It's like, well, you can put whatever evidence you want in front of me. I couldn't give a shit. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean it won't prove anything. You know, this is, I love science like you do, and I still do. But in what we're speaking of, it's redundant.
No, you're right. You're right.
And yet there can be a real love of it.
Mm.
I mean, I was always interested. I was just not quite clever enough to be a scientist, but I was always interested. I had the idea of being a biologist because I loved animals, and at school, sciences, biology was by far my favorite.
Sure. Somebody said I'd been a good doctor except for the science part.
Yeah, I could have maybe been a doctor as well. Well, you know, a reasonable bedside manner, just not very clever.
Well, I have good bedside manner. Yeah. Oh, thanks, Joe.
Oh, thanks, Michael. Well, pleasure to see everyone. What was I going to do? I was going to say something. I was going to plug Black Mountain for New Year. If you can't think of anything to do for New Year and you want a treat, then we're meeting in Black Mountain at this beautiful retreat center that I went to in August. So I've been in the summer, and now to go in winter would be fantastic. So that's over New Year. Well, there was something else I was going to say. Oh, I'm working with Julie on a third book, which is the first Copenhagen talks. We've gone through, well, Julie does most of the work. She's gone through and transcribed talks from the first 2 days, and then we're going through editing that, and I add some bits. But there was a lot of people thought that they liked them. I've had a lot of positive feedback about those recordings, so I'm making a book out of that. And there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. Well, thanks for coming, everyone. I thought it would only be half a dozen of us, so it's lovely to see everybody, especially Americans on Thanksgiving. I feel privileged. And it really does feel, because I haven't got anything to offer you, honestly. It sounds stupid because people say, what do you teach? Being a teacher all my life. And I went, I don't teach anything. I said, I'll meet with some beautiful people who've had enough of being themselves and a bit sick and tired of that shit. And then they go, oh, interesting, and then walk away. But yeah, it feels like meeting friends, so it's a treat for me. Thanks, everybody.
Cheers, Tim. Cheers.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks.
Thanks, Tim.
Oh, Anita. Oh, thank you for co-hosting and looking after the door, being the doorman.
Thanks, Anita.
Thanks, Anita.
Thanks, Anita.
You're welcome, Tim. Yes, it was a lovely meeting. Beautiful.
Thank you, Anita. Bye-bye.
Yes, lovely meeting.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great day.
I've got to do the recording.
Great evening.